Two nights, two one-run losses to the team that the Giants are facing, the Atlanta Braves. Just a brutal couple of games here. And do the Giants need to win the next two against Atlanta in order to stay in the race and stay relevant? I think so.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, been hosting this show for over 5 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. So check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use code all lowercase lockedonmlb for a first deposit match up to $100. And coming up on today's show, we are going to get into the Giants losing another one-run game here to the Braves in extra innings. Very similar feel to the first game of this series, except for the elite pitching that was on display in game one. This was more of a, mid-rotation type performance by Charlie Morton and Kyle Harrison. And then the Braves bullpen holding up stronger than the Giants, and the Giants didn't use their best relievers. The Braves did. I don't know what Bob Melvin was waiting for to use Ryan Walker, and we'll get to that later on. But the Braves just executed in extra innings 2 nights in a row, and the Giants did not. And the Braves' extra innings record kind of reflects that execution, whereas the Giants does not. I mean, the Giants are now 6-7 in extra innings, so they were 6-5 coming into this series, but the Braves are 9-4. And so Braves are also, by the way, 13-17 in one-run games, and they just won 2 of them. So they were 11-17 in one-run games, and Giants are now 18-18 in one-run games, so they were 18-16. So perhaps a little regression in some, luck categories for the Giants, but 3 straight one-run losses and 2 straight to the team that the Giants are directly chasing in the wild card standings, that number 3 wild card team. And the Diamondbacks and Padres are just on absolute heaters and refuse to lose. They're both 15 games over 500. The Giants are 7.5 back of each of the Diamondbacks and Padres. Diamondbacks playing right now as we speak, and they've already jumped out to a big lead against Colorado in the first inning. The Padres are playing the Pirates at home. So I'm just assuming that basically the Giants have very little chance of catching the Diamondbacks or the Padres. And so there's your chance as the Braves. And we talked about it yesterday, but in order to win the tiebreaker, I had to think about this more after I was not actively recording to realize, yes, they play an odd number of games against each other this year, the Giants and Braves. And so one team wins the tiebreaker. There's no tie in terms of who had a better record against the other this season. It'll either be the Braves or the Giants. And for the Giants to win the tiebreaker against Atlanta, they have to win the next 2 games. And I feel like you don't have to win the next 2 games to stay relevant. I did kind of say that initially. The Mets continue to lose. The Cardinals continue to lose. The Pirates have lost 9 straight and kind of fallen out of this race. The Cubs have lost a couple games. The Reds have a plus 48 run differential, and so they're kind of creeping up just a game back of San Francisco and St. Louis. And so don't be surprised if the Reds go on a little bit of a run there. But for the Giants, they're now 3.5 back, and the Braves figure to be better than they've been. That's the thing. It's I know they're missing a lot of players, but let's just take a step back here. The Giants are 3.5 back, so there's 2 more games in this series. If the Giants win both, they'll be 1.5 back of Atlanta. And so that's the best case scenario. And then they'd also hold the tiebreaker, which is huge because there's no game 163 anymore. If the Giants and Braves ended the season with the exact same record and it was a tie for that third wild card spot, the Giants would just go, they would make it and the Braves would not. And so that's the only way that you get that tiebreaker. So that's essentially like gaining a whole game on a team, because a tie is a very real possibility. You either are ahead or behind or you tie. And so it's really huge to win the tiebreaker. So the Giants winning 2 out of 3 on the road in Atlanta was big, but now to lose the first 2 games of this series at home is equally big in the negative direction, and they have to win the next 2 because right now it's 3-3. The Braves have won 3 and the Giants have won 3, and so even if you go, no, I keep getting this wrong. No, the Giants have won 2 and the Braves have won 3. That's what it is. The Giants are 2-3, so the only way to win the tiebreaker is to go 2-0 and thus be 4-3 against Atlanta. Even if you go 1-1, it's 4. The Giants would have 3 and the Braves would have 4. And so, yeah, you must win the next 2. So if you win the next 2, you're 1.5 back of the Braves. If you go 1-1, you remain 3.5 back of the Braves. And if you lose the next 2, you're 5.5 back of the Braves. And who knows what other teams have passed you in the standings. Like you could be theoretically behind the Cubs, the Reds, the Cardinals, the Mets, and of course the Braves. And so losing the next 2 would really put them in a bad situation. Going 1-1 would be certainly suboptimal, but the season wouldn't be over on August 16th when you're 3.5 back, but you're looking them in the eye. I've heard this kind of phrase before, like this is a look them in the eye series, where it just happened to be that the Padres and Diamondbacks got red hot at this moment and the Braves started losing. And so all of a sudden this was a matchup where you're facing that team you're directly chasing. And so far, the Giants have not been able to come through with 2 one-run losses. 4-3 last night, the final score, 1-0 in game 1. So this is definitely a series that they could look back on and say, we had our chances and we just didn't capitalize. But if the Giants could find a way to win the next 2, things would look very different. And I think it's worth pointing out that I believe the Giants were 12-4 in their last 16 coming into this series. So they're still 12-6 in their last 18 games. And so let's not act like the world has fallen apart here. I think recency bias, there's certainly a tendency to overreact to the most recent games. And I get it. You were facing not as good teams in terms of the quality of the opponent, but also don't forget the Giants won 2 out of 3 in Atlanta earlier in the year when the Braves were playing better. And so these are 2 one-run losses. Their last game against the Tigers was a 1-run loss. So, yeah, 3 straight 1-run losses. But there's always tomorrow, and tomorrow is now today, and the Giants will have a good pitcher on the mound in Robbie Ray. 2021 Cy Young Award winner Robbie Ray. The Braves essentially looks to me like this is a bullpen game with Grant Holmes on the mound for Atlanta. He's made 3 starts and appeared in 13 games, and he's only pitched 38 innings. And so Grant Holmes, I'm just going to have to look. I guess he's technically like in that rotation. Let me see his last few times out. He's not an opener. He was pitching out of the bullpen, but his last 3 outings have all been starts, and he's gone 5 innings, 4 2/3 innings, and 5 innings. And his most recent start in Colorado gave up 5 earned runs in 5 innings, and looks like he gave up a homer. He's given up a homer 1 home run apiece in each of his last 3 starts at Milwaukee, at home against Miami, and at Colorado. So the Giants have the pitching edge here, but can they take advantage? Can they get the offense going? Coming up in just a minute, we'll get into that. We'll also get into some managerial decisions that were controversial to say the least. Tyler Fitzgerald has been red hot, homered in this game, and then was asked to bunt in extra innings. What do we think about that? We'll get into it in just a minute, and before we do, today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by Liquid IV. When you're taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker flavor, a surefire summer hit. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. The benefits are numerous, like staying hydrated while traveling, while going to summer festivals, or after a night out. You can find all your favorite flavors on their website, from acai berry and lemon lime to pina colada. Tear, pour, live more. 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, hands down. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered every week. From lowering select players' stats projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. This past Friday, I didn't have a losing lineup. I took more than 1.5 walks for Robbie Ray. I think he walked 3. And I took more than half a strikeout for Javier Baez, and Robbie Ray struck him out in his first at bat, and that hit. And so I have a great time on Prize Picks every time. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code all lowercase locked on MLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's all lowercase code locked on MLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, as promised, we are going to get into some managerial decisions that were controversial. I've seen on Twitter, and in the media, a lot of people questioning the decision to bunt Tyler Fitzgerald in extra innings. I didn't really see this talked about, but I wasn't really on social media much. But where was Ryan Walker? So we'll get into all of that and more. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. And today, for your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And a reminder that you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. So, obviously a huge couple of games here. I think the Giants obviously need to win one of the next 2. If you lose 2, you're 5.5 back, and just an extreme uphill battle. To be 3.5 back exiting the series, it would be a letdown, but nonetheless, they would be They would be 13-7 in their last 20 games. If they can win the next 2, you're talking 14-6 in your last 20 games. And so these next 2 games are huge. And yeah, I mean, we can get right into the controversy, which was the decision to bunt with Tyler Fitzgerald, who, it's unfortunate we can't just gush about what Tyler Fitzgerald is doing. He hit another home run, and according to the Giants, Tyler Fitzgerald's 15th career home run last night. had him join Willie Mays as the only two Giants in franchise history with 15 or more home runs in their first 59 career games with a plate appearance. Mays had 16 homers in 59 games in 1951. So that's just unbelievable. I mean, 69 games, with a plate appearance. So it's 59 games. So I guess Fitzgerald has plenty, because he's played in 69 games in his career, but I'm guessing many times he just pinch ran and didn't have a plate appearance. So the numbers are even better than they look. The isolated power in his career is about 300, which is just bonkers. It's, roughly double the major league average. The slugging percentage in his major league career is nearly 600. He's hitting like Willie Mays. I mean, it's just not really hyperbole, which is just crazy. But that's what he's doing for like a tall, skinny kid. It's kind of amazing. He's not really that young. He's going to be 27 this September in a month on the 15th. So, it's a late breakout for Tyler Fitzgerald, ultimately it's worth saying that no matter how the season goes, yes, if the Giants miss out on the postseason, it'll be a huge disappointment for sure. And you're probably going to have opting out for Matt Chapman and Blake Snell. And then you're looking at another offseason of trying to fill in some pieces there and blah, blah, blah. And just, missing the playoffs. They've only made the playoffs one time since 2016. And it's nearly a decade now. And if they miss it this year, we're talking, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 8 seasons if they miss, and one playoff appearance, which was a first round bounce. And so that's tough. That's tough. And in their last playoff appearance in 2016, it was a first round loss as well. Well, I guess they won the wild card game, so technically not, but still, nonetheless, that would be very disappointing. But it's also worth mentioning that the breakout seasons for Tyler Fitzgerald and Elliot Ramos would be kind of big, important developments for the Giants. Patrick Bailey has really fallen off offensively, but has just continued to be a defensive wizard, a young Yadier Molina type influence behind the plate back there. And so young players establishing themselves as good players is a big part of this season, no matter how it goes. Not saying that it wouldn't be hugely disappointing if they missed the playoffs. Kyle Harrison, I thought he was pretty good last night. The final line for Harrison was, I'm trying to pull it up. I have the box score somewhere here. The final line for Harrison, he did give up a couple of home runs. So I guess it's hard to say you were pretty good when you gave up 2 homers, but all in all, just 3 earned runs, which is kind of a lot in 5 innings, but just 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, 6 hits allowed, 2 homers, as I said. ERA on the season is 4.14. He just turned 23, I believe, just the other day. And so, he has had a solid season. That's, not easy to do when his birthday was on August 12th. Career 4.14 ERA. Last year it was 4.15. This year it's 4.14. As a 22-year-old, essentially that whole time, the future still remains bright for Kyle Harrison and Logan Webb having another Logan Webb season. So there are a lot of positives here, but let's get into, now that we've discussed the positives with Fitzgerald and obviously what he's been able to do, the bunt in the bottom of the 10th. So automatic runner on second, Giants down a run once again, just like the day before, not able to hold the Braves scoreless in the top of the 10th. Braves only getting 1. So all you have to do is play some situational baseball and you get the guy in and you at least tie the game. And so they didn't bunt with Yastrzemski, and I don't blame them for not bunting with Yastrzemski the night before. But so after that game, when the Giants lost 1-0, Bob Melvin was asked about basically not bunting, I guess, with Yaz and trying to move that guy up that way. And his answer was, it's hard to play for a tie, especially the way our situational at-bats have gone. I think there's no real philosophy other than kind of see how things are going. But we've had some trouble with those man at third and less than 2 out situations. So we were going to try to take 3 shots at it. And I think that's the right call. And they took those 3 shots at it, especially with Marco Luciano on deck the night before. You don't really want a lefty against a righty reliever in Yaz against Raisel Iglesias bunting to set it up for Marco Luciano. I think that's like too much pressure. Luciano has too much inexperience, too much of a tendency to strike out, that I wouldn't want to set that situation up either, so I don't blame them. But then they go ahead and do something different the next night. And this is with Fitzgerald. And it is worth pointing out, Tyler Fitzgerald's strikeout rate is 27.9%, which is significantly higher than the major league average. And so decent chance that Tyler Fitzgerald strikes out if he has a chance to hit or swing the bat, I should say, in that situation. And Raisel Iglesias, his strikeout rate's gone down. His ERA is very good at 1.54, but his strikeout rate in his career is about 30%, and this year it's 26%. It's been since 2019 coming into this year 33%, and it's down now to 26% this year. So, you're probably going to make some contact. He's just been unbelievable on batting average on balls in play, due for some regression, I would say. Like 183 is the batting average on balls in play against him. That's probably the lowest in baseball and very unsustainable. That's just nobody does that. And in his career, it's 276, about 100 points higher. So I think it was the right call to have Tyler Fitzgerald bunt in that situation? I will answer that question and ask the question, where's Ryan Walker? Why did Ryan Walker not pitch in this game? We'll get to that in just a minute, and before we do, today's episode of Locked on Giants is brought to you in part by Ibotta. Are you taking that dream vacation this summer but dreading the cost? With Ibotta, you can get cash back on all of your purchases, so you can spend more time making memories this summer and less time dreaming about them. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or that fancy dinner you've been craving. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. It's time you joined the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and start earning cash back using the code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, as promised, we are going to get into the decision to bunt with Tyler Fitzgerald. Do I agree with it? How it backfired? And then where in the world is Ryan Walker? Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. A reminder that you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. Also, a reminder to check out Postcast with Eric Engel after every Giants game. That is on Locked On Sports San Francisco on YouTube live for instant reaction right after the game. So go subscribe right now, Locked On Sports San Francisco, and hit the notification bell to be notified when he goes live. And that'll also include Warriors and 49ers instant reaction right after games as well when those teams get back in season, which is coming up here pretty soon, at least for the 49ers. And then the Giants postcast shows up on this feed, just not on YouTube, but everywhere else, like Apple, Spotify, etc. So check it out. So Fitzgerald's bunt, it's easy to criticize in hindsight because he didn't get it down. If you get the bunt down and you have Lamont Wade Jr. on deck, I think it's less about like, Bob Melvin is inconsistent with his strategy in that situation. And just like he said in the first after the first game when they didn't bunt, and he said there's no real philosophy other than kind of see how things are going. And I think situationally, like to have Marco Luciano as the guy coming up next, if you're able to get a successful bunt down, that's not the matchup you want, really. Not that I don't believe in Luciano long term, but it's very different when you have Lamont Wade Jr. as the next guy up after Tyler Fitzgerald. That being said, it's tough. It's kind of a feel thing because, like I said, Fitzgerald does have that high strikeout rate. If there's one flaw to his game, it's been the swing and miss and the strikeout. And that's exactly what you don't want in that situation. He's very fast, so he could lay a bunt down and potentially beat it out. So there's a lot of things that could go right if he bunts, but there's also, it limits the upside of the situation because if it's a sacrifice even, then you really are playing for the tie, and then you have to go another extra inning anyway. And so then you're hoping that you don't allow a run. At some point, you've got to play for the win. And Fitzgerald has so much power, as he's shown, and showed again last night with another home run, that, with Iglesias and his strikeout rate not being super high, I kind of just want to trust Fitzgerald to swing the bat in that situation. But I also don't think it's the worst decision in the world because of his blazing speed, literally one of the faster runners in the game. You put a ton of pressure on the defense if he gets down a decent bunt, but he didn't. And the Giants really caught a break because he bunted it fair. He didn't touch the ball with his body, and the Braves picked up the ball and threw out Casey Schmidt at third, but they ruled on the field that Fitzgerald made contact with the ball in fair territory out of the batter's box, which he did not, which made Fitzgerald out, and it sent Casey Schmidt back to second. So that's actually a positive break for the Giants, because otherwise it would have been runner on first, one out, as opposed to runner on second, one out. So Giants caught a break in a way there, although Fitzgerald could have stolen second base. And then been a faster runner. There's no guarantee that he does. And so it's better to just have that runner on second. I think there's no doubt. So I took more issue with not seeing Ryan Walker appear in this game. I don't understand. I thought he would come in the ninth when the Giants were tied with the Braves in the bottom of the ninth, or in the top of the ninth. That you see your closer come in a tie game in the ninth, and instead we saw it wasn't they went to Jordan Hicks, who, I get it, he's been a back end reliever in his career at times, but he also can get wild, and he ended up doing a fine job. He gave up a leadoff hit on a weak ground ball that just kind of found a good spot and escaped some trouble by striking out Marcell Ozuna with a 100-mile-an-hour pitch. So that ended up working out fine. But then in the 10th, with that free runner on second, Randy Rodriguez over Ryan Walker, and I was like, okay, Ryan Walker must have worked 2 or 3 days in a row, or 2 days in a row and 2 out of the last 4 games. three out of the last four, something like that. But no, Ryan Walker's usage had been that it had been every other day since the Thursday the 8th. So he pitched on the 8th, he pitched on the 10th, and he pitched on the 12th. And so yesterday would have been just 2 days in a row for the first time in a week. It's not like he's been overused. And so what are you saving him for? There's not going to be a save situation. He's been a better reliever than Randy Rodriguez. And so I just don't understand not using your best reliever in a game of this magnitude when I think he gives you the best chance to possibly not allow a run in the 10th. If you're going to not use him in the 9th, at least use him in the 10th. Like, what are you saving him for? I don't understand. But, Randy Rodriguez did allow just the one run. So it's not like he imploded or anything. But still, that to me, that was the bigger thing than the bunt. But I didn't like the bunt either. I didn't like either of those decisions. And it's easy to criticize when the moves don't work. And the moves didn't work either night. And they did use Ryan Walker, I think, in the first game, didn't they? Yeah, they did, because that's what I'm saying. He pitched the previous day, but it only would have been back-to-back games that he had pitched. So I don't understand not using Ryan Walker. I just don't. And just to be clear, when Ryan Walker pitched, he pitched the 9th in a tie game in the first game of the series, and then Taylor Rogers pitched the 10th. So I don't know. I just don't understand the inconsistency. Maybe it's I want to save Ryan Walker in case we have a lead and need to close out a game in game 3, but you got to win the game that's in front of you and then worry about tomorrow. And that's not what they did here, to use Randy Rodriguez in such a high leverage situation. He did allow just the one run. And it was, obviously unearned because that runner was gifted to the Braves on second base. But Giants once again unable to score their guy. So Fitzgerald bunted out, like I said. Wade Jr. then followed that up with what did he do? What did Wade Jr. do? He flew out to center, and then Elliot Ramos flew out pretty deep to left. Like, it looked like it may have a shot to get out, and that would have been dramatic, but no, it was a deep fly out to left, and that was the game. So Giants need to bear down. They've got Robbie Ray going tonight against Grant Holmes, who is an inexperienced starter, and then they've got Logan Webb going in the finale. So if they can find a way to win tonight, you feel good about your chances with Webb, even though it's Max Fried, who's a really good pitcher for the Braves, going in the finale. So these are two huge games coming up, and we'll be here to break it all down on Locked On Giants. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much. So thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.